Hi everyone, Latrice Knighton here with Josh Bucio of Waterstone Bank. Thanks Josh for joining us. And today we're going to go over the financial disclosure statement, the section on real estate. And the reason why I brought in Josh is that he helps divorcing clients. He's one of the few companies I trust here who gives our clients lots of knowledge about refinancing during divorce and also buying during divorce. And so we're going to go through that section on your financial disclosure statement. And I'm first going to talk about the common question that people have is either one spouse has been taking care of paying the mortgage and the other spouse is uncertain, number one, what the monthly balance is, or two, if their name is on the mortgage. So if you're the spouse who's uncertain about if their name's on the mortgage, is there a way that they can find out?
Yes. One of the best ways that they can find out is the mortgage statement itself. So I always ask for that, and it tells me specifically what names are on there. In very worst case, if the statement doesn't state that, they can look at their closing documents, and a couple of good ones is the note and the closing disclosure. They'll tell specifically who's on the mortgage and who isn't.
Okay. And so that statement is helpful because I think sometimes people think that they're at the closing and so they automatically assume their name's on it, but then they don't see their name at the top of that mortgage statement. So that's really what's going to tell you if you're on the mortgage or not.
Yes.
Okay. The mortgage statement, what does it all tell a person? Because sometimes they also don't know if their taxes are being escrowed or how they're paying their taxes. So they start having more questions about what they're actually paying each month.
Yeah, good question. So the statement tells me the balance, and it also tells me about the payment and what's in the payment. So the escrow is important, meaning the property taxes and homeowners insurance. That typically tells me. And that's super important when it comes to qualifying for the new mortgage itself, because we have to know what's escrowed and what isn't. So.
And we also know if there's also PMI.
Yes, PMI as well.
Okay. Because we do get that question a lot if they're not certain if the PMI has been paid off or not.
Yes, yeah.
And for many parties, the date of acquisition, when I'm looking down at this financial disclosure statement, is really important because for them, they may have purchased it prior to being married. And for you, what does that matter to you if it's purchased prior to marriage?
Well, if there's something like a premarital agreement, that's important to us because whatever the agreement states can follow through with them qualifying on the new mortgage, about their income and what debts they will or will not incur because of that premarital agreement.
So a lot of I guess the only real true basis of whether or not you can refinance or buy a home is your debt and income ratio. Is that right?
Yeah, those are one of the two primary factors. There are a few others like credit and assets and things like that, but yeah,
Okay.
that debt to income, which gives us a ratio, has a lot to do with how much they'll qualify for. So.
Okay. So it's good to know if it's premarital because clearly then you're going to have more assets compared to debts. And so that'll be able to help someone who's thinking about refinancing or selling.
Yeah.
So it's great that you guys, if you have a copy of your marital settlement agreement or marital property agreement, that you give it to us so we can give it to Josh because that will help with you purchasing or refinancing. As far as market value, so our clients want to use different ways to determine value. So sometimes they want, and this is why it talks about basis and data valuation, they want to use assessed value from the city that they live in, or they want to use an old appraisal, or they want to guess based on what they see in their neighborhood that's selling. How do you determine the value of the current home? And do you have any comments on the other ways that it can be done?
I do.
Okay.
So, excuse me, with the mortgage process, we're going to order an appraisal report. And just to kind of give a one-on-one of that, the way it works is there's a management company. We have to submit the order through a management company. And the management company puts the order out there to local appraisers. And whoever's available wants to take that order and run with it will. So it's an unbiased, opinion of value, and we have no communication with that appraiser so they can give us a really good, opinion of value. When it comes to the assessor and the tax bill, because I hear this a lot, with the tax bill itself, has a value. They call it a market value or an assessed value. We'll have people come to us and say, this is the value of my house because the municipality said that. Well, the assessor's job, just so people understand this, is to determine the market value for tax purposes. It's not necessarily the true value of the property. So that's why a lot of people have an appraisal done to get that opinion of value from a professional appraiser, a licensed appraiser. So.
And sometimes going through divorce, people want to use, if they're uncertain if they're going to keep or sell a house because they don't know how much equity's in it, they'll first get an appraisal to see if they need to buy that person out, if there's any real value in it because they're uncertain.
Sure.
Can you use that appraisal that's court ordered for the divorce process in your process to refinance or buy or purchase a home?
Unfortunately not.
Why not?
Because with the lending process, we have to order the appraisal because we're ordering it as the customer to the appraiser. We can't just use somebody else's. It's just part of the mortgage process.
So at least you guys know.
Yeah, I know. It's not the best answer, but yeah.
Hey, we got to know what everyone's up to. Now, a lot of times people want me to guess what's going to happen as far as they've made additions to the home. So they have made improvements to the kitchen or the basement or a bathroom. Can you guess based on what their original cost was and then they bring in what they paid for the new kitchen or bathroom, how that's going to impact value, or you still got to wait for the appraisal?
Yeah, you still have to wait for the appraiser. They're the one determining value. I had people ask a lot of times, like, well, Josh, I put $10,000 and redid my kitchen. But they got to be careful because they don't always get $10,000 back in value. It's not always a simple dollar to dollar comparison. That's why the appraiser's there, because they have a whole different formula as to how they determine the improvements. But my advice is, yes, improvements do help the value of the house, but certain ones do, certain ones don't. But improvements definitely can short-term and long-term help the value.
In a realtor, if you're going to talk about selling and you want to get the most bang for the buck, it's probably best to know what additions are going to be good for the value.
Absolutely, yeah. The agent's definitely going to know whether that house is going to help sell faster or more if you need a kitchen done or a bathroom, and how much you're going to get out of that.
Right. So if you need more money in equity to refinance, you should probably talk to someone who's seeing what's going on in the current market.
Absolutely. More of a local agent, for sure. Yeah.
Now, sometimes I have clients, when we're talking about on the other side of this financial disclosure statement, they have a mortgage plus a HELOC. What happens if you're in the position that you're going to refinance and you have both the original mortgage and the HELOC because you did a roof improvement? What happens to those notes when you have to also then pay out a spouse?
So when you do a refinance that has multiple liens, they could do one of two things. We can combine both of them into the new mortgage, so we'll pay off both existing liens, or they can just pay off the first lien, the main mortgage, and keep the line of credit or the HELOC open. In the case of like a divorce scenario, I see a lot of times both of the people are on both of those mortgages, so you have to pay off or refinance both of them to get the ex-spouse off,
right?
Because that's the goal a lot of times, to get them off the mortgage. So if somebody wants to open up a line of credit again, you combine them, create a new mortgage, and then maybe open up another line of credit after you've done the refinance. So.
Okay. And then how would the spouse who's going to be paid out of that refinance, how do they get their check?
Oh, okay, yeah. So during the refinance process, what you're going to do is once we figure out how much you qualify for and how much you're going to get at closing, with a refinance, let's say it happens on a Monday. The closing happens on a Monday, but then there's a federal rule. It's called a right of rescission. It's a 3 business day rescission period. It allows the customer to rescind or basically back out or cancel the refinance if they want.
Okay.
If they choose not to, on the 4th business day, let's say it's that Friday, that's when the funding happens and that's when the checks are cut.
So 4 days.
Yes.
Okay. Got to remember that. Now, I'm going to ask you a couple questions about, and it's not on the financial disclosure statement, but
Sure.
It's all leading into whether or not you should keep the house or not.
Okay.
Should you refinance or sell that house and move and buy another house? So, say, first of all, can clients call you just to figure out if they can afford to purchase a home or refinance?
Absolutely.
And what can you tell them by just having a telephone call or sitting down with them?
So I can definitely help them with pre-qualifying. If I understand where they are today, what their current income is, their credit, their debts, etc., I can tell them, literally how you should qualify today. And then if they want some advice as to what's going to happen, like let's say they're going to incur a new debt or more income, I can at least give them an idea what it should change. But once that happens, I have to update the qualification and let them know for sure.
So it's better to talk to you right away in the divorce proceeding.
Oh, absolutely. I want more people to get me involved early in the process so I can give them a really good idea what they should qualify for, or at least pre-qualify for.
Because I think I hear a lot of clients who right away are nervous because they're looking at the pot of what's going on and are concerned that they won't be able to qualify. So at least you'll take away that stress, or you can give them some tips of, okay, you may not qualify today based on what you tell me, but if you get your marital settlement agreement to say X, Y, and Z, I think you could.
Yes.
Okay.
It's super important, yeah. The more I know ahead of time, the better.
And could you talk to them also about mortgage payments? Because we talk a lot about budgeting earlier on in the financial disclosure statement, and again, monthly mortgage payment is high up there on what they're concerned about. You could also help them understand what that would look like.
Yes.
And their options, and I guess on the type of loan that they take out.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely focus on the payment because that's part of somebody qualifying is understanding that payment plus the other payments they have and figuring out that maximum. So.
And sometimes, I guess, and a little bit going back to the financial disclosure statement on how the title is held per deed. I mean, sometimes people aren't thinking about a cosigner, right? And how does that help a person?
So typically a cosigner is a good solution when somebody has too high of a debt to income ratio. So a cosigner could come in and be added, and we can add their income and of course their debts and their scenario to help with showing more income. And we help a lot of people with cosigners, and then what the plan is eventually to refinance them off in the future when that person can qualify on their own. So let's say there is income coming in the future, or the plans are going to change in the immediate future, or even in the far future, and then get that person off the mortgage. So.
Okay. I think sometimes people get so stuck in the being overwhelmed by the entire process that they don't think that there could be more than one solution to get them into a home or refinancing and keeping their home.
Yeah.
So it's good to know, and I know that you're willing to meet and talk with people to kind of get them right away understanding, so they can decide if this home is really what they want to keep. So I appreciate you kind of giving me these tips now.
Absolutely.
And Josh has already previously told me that you will or are open to people calling and answering these questions, and not to be afraid to give you that call.
Not at all. Yeah, I help people all the time on the phone with consultations, even if it's just a quick phone call or a really in-depth consultation. There's no cost for me pre-qualifying people, so I do it a lot. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you, Josh, for joining us.
Yeah, no
and
problem.
I'm going to do a blog with Josh, so I'm also going to, you guys can check out our blog and see if there's more information and tips that you guys need there. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks.